Council, please come to order. If we could all please rise. We'll be led in prayer by Alderman Bill Nash.
Almighty God, we ask for your blessing upon the members of this council as we assemble here in this chamber to conduct the ongoing business of our city. With your guidance, we will strive to ensure that all our decisions are for the common good, and your inspiration will instill respect, compassion, and thoughtfulness in all of our deliberations. Give us the strength and wisdom to lead by example as the people's representatives, and that peace and harmony will mark all our proceedings and keep us faithful to the trust placed in us by the citizens of our community. Amen.
Amen. Alderman Wilson, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could all please remain standing for a moment of silence. First for Lloyd Hinchy, and as well as for Jason Vincent, two extraordinary gentlemen who made their mark on this community in so many good ways. I just think it would be nice if we could remember them right now, please. Thank you.
Adoption of the minutes, April 5th, 15th, and 19th of 2021.
Thank you. If I could have a motion, please, for the adoption of those minutes, April 5th, 15th, and 19th. Alderwoman Miles, second, Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion, questions, issues? Seeing none. All those in favor? The vote is unanimous, 7-0. Thank you.
Proclamation, Salvation Army Week.
Thank you. I'm going to read into the public record this proclamation, please. It's from the city of Norwich, from myself and Pro Tem Mark Betancourt. Whereas, as noted by President Eisenhower in 1954, 74 years after the Salvation Army arrived in the U.S. among Americans, the Salvation Army has long been a symbol of wholehearted dedication to the cause of human brotherhood. In time of war, the men and women of this organization have brought to those serving their country far from home friendliness and warm concern. In the quieter days of peace, their work has been a constant reminder to us all that each of us is a neighbor and kin to all Americans. Giving freely of themselves, the men and women of the Salvation Army have won the respect of all of us. And whereas the Salvation Army loves all, serves all, fights for all without discrimination, and whereas the Salvation Army is the world's largest non-governmental provider of poverty relief, serving millions annually. And whereas the Salvation Army stands ready locally, nationally, and internationally to respond when disasters strike. Locally during the COVID-19 pandemic, providing food resources and assistance to those directly impacted through the DoorDash program, as well as nearly 2,500 emergency food boxes to households suffering from the food resource shortages during the pandemic. And whereas the Salvation Army addresses seasonal needs, such as the 2020 Rescue Christmas and Back to School Backpack collaborations, and whereas the City of Norwich is honored to take part in the annual observance of National Salvation Army Week in recognition of their ongoing selfless service to others. Now therefore, I, Mayor Peter Albert Nystrom, and Norwich City Council President Pro Tem Mark Betancourt, on behalf of the Norwich City Council and the citizens of the City of Norwich, to hereby proudly acknowledge and congratulate the Salvation Army for their loving and giving throughout the year, and proudly proclaim May 10th to May 14th as National Salvation Army Week, dated this third day of May 2021. Again, it is signed by myself and our Pro Tem Mark Betancourt. Thank you.
Public hearing, number 1. An ordinance providing for abatement of real estate taxes on real property, improvements, and waiver of building permit fees for the historic redevelopment and/or reuse of the Panema Mill Building Number 2, also known as 555 and 575 Norwich Avenue, to be continued to a later date.
Thank you.
Mayor,
Yes, please.
I would motion that we postpone this, any action, including the public hearing on this ordinance, until such time as we get a report from the commission and the city plan.
Thank you very much. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Alderwoman Miles. Is there discussion on the motion to postpone until such time as the Commission on the City Plan submits its report? Seeing none? We have a roll call on this, please?
Sure. Alderman DeLucia?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0. The matter is postponed. Thank you.
Petitions and communication. Letter of resignation from John from the Personnel and Pension Board.
Motion, please, to receive. Alderman DeLucia, second by Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Alderwoman Gould?
I would just like to take this opportunity to thank John for his service to the Personnel and Pension Board and wish him all the best in the future.
Thank you. Alderman DeLucia?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would just like to go a little bit deeper in my expression of gratitude to John. You know, John not only served this this board honorably, but he served an entire career in the police department, serving the city, serving the citizens, and he has been a personal friend of mine for more of the years than either one of us care to count, but it's 35 and counting. And he is so close to me. He was actually in my wedding party. So when I read this letter, I was saddened that that he needs to, take this time to step back. But I certainly do respect his decision, and thank him from the bottom of my heart for not only his service here and his service to the city, but his friendship. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Very well said. Any further comments?
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0.
City Manager's report.
Thank you. This is the city manager's report for May 3rd, 2021. Plans are underway to reopen City Hall to the public in accordance with the governor's rules, which will come into effect on May 19th, 2020. Department heads will be submitting their plans to Human Resources Director for review on how their departments will comply if social distancing is not possible in their areas. Meetings attended via conference call or video were weekly Governor Lamont updates, state representative and legislators, Southeast Council of Governments, Southeastern Area Transit, Connecticut Conference of Municipalities, Board of Directors meeting, NPU City Coordination meeting, Region 4 Emergency Support Plan, Department of Health COVID-19 updates, NCDC Board meeting and Director Search Committee and Board of Education Ad Hoc Committee. To date, in conjunction with Uncas Health, 5,343 individuals have been vaccinated at the Senior Center and additional 34 homebound individuals. There will be a 2-day mobile clinic held at St. Mary Church on 70 Central Avenue on May 5th and May 6th. Pre-registration of appointments is highly encouraged and can be made by calling 860-679-6547, Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. Thank you to Yukon Health, FEMA, and the Connecticut Department of Health for providing this clinic in our town, and to St. Mary's Church for welcoming the Norwich community. The city will be holding a tax sale for 31 properties on July 7th, 2021. Attorney Adam Cohen of Pullman and Comley will be handling the sales for the city and can be contacted with any questions, comments, or payments. Additional information can be found on the city's website and Facebook page with a link to www.cttaxsales.com. The Public Works Department held a pre-construction meeting with Nunez Companies, contractor to the Franklin Square roundabout. The contractor is scheduled to start on May 17th and will have 120 days to complete the project. Paving has started on Curtis Street and Wilderness Road and should be completed by the first week of May. These streets will be followed by nearly 2.5 miles of streets in the Blueberry Hill Road, Mountain View Drive, and Bayberry Hill Road area. Public Works is now taking reservations for the group pavilion at Mohegan Park for dates after May 20th. May is Suicide Prevention Month, and Norwich Youth and Family Services will be hosting a virtual walk in recognition of the 48,300 people who commit suicide each year. Additional information can be found on the Youth and Family Services webpage. The Recreation Department's vacation camp held in April was at 95% capacity. People are excited to get outside, and the city fields being open and sports leagues are playing. Spalding Pond Beach is scheduled to open on June 24th. A swearing-in ceremony was held for newly appointed Director of Training, Mark Waters, and newly promoted Fire Lieutenant Adam Griffin. Congratulations to both of them. That completes my report for this evening.
Thank you, John. Just prior to asking if there are questions, I'd also like to note that Norwich Public Utilities recently received the Diamond Level recognition for reliable public power provider. American Public Power Association, it places them in the highest level of utilities who provide public power to those here in our country, so we should all be very proud of them as well. Thank you. Are there questions for our city manager? Yes, Alderman Wilson.
The first question I have is with us reopening tentatively May 19th for City Hall, will all staff be back in the building, or is that something that you're still working out as to how that looks?
No, I believe all staff will be in all the buildings.
Okay. Thank you. I mean, that's a good thing to know moving forward. And many of your same procedures will still kind of be in effect, essentially, for coming in and out of City Hall?
Yes, we're still going to put some controls on entering and exiting, because we're still going to be practicing masks, because it's inside, and social distancing. So we'll need that assistance at the entrance. So we still will be providing that.
Excellent. And the reason I asked that question is, like many, we're all excited for things being a lot different at this time than they were a year ago, but also being practical that we still need to be somewhat cautious and look out for the best interests of all of our employees, but also each and every resident that comes in and out of City Hall. So thank you on that. The only other things that I have are, I said it last meeting and I'll continue to say it as we see games being played and kids out doing things, encouraging families to sign up for recreational opportunities. Their catalog is out. They've got scholarship opportunities, and we want to see kids out doing fun things this summer and this spring, and taking advantage of those opportunities. So, I want to continue to urge us to promote those things, but also get families to continue to sign up for them, and continue to do our part to make sure that we're keeping individuals safe. And I do appreciate the city doing its part to continue to get individuals vaccinated, and hoping it's within 2 or 3 days that we ramp up a little bit more of the advertising for the 2-day clinic that we have coming up. So thank you.
Thank you. The other concerns or questions of the city manager? Yes, President Pro Tem Mark Bettencourt, please.
Just one thing, I did have a chat with Representative Kevin Ryan today, and regarding legislation that's pending at the state capitol. So it's something they're still working on that would give municipalities some flexibility in the scheduling of meetings. So just to
That's good to know. I wasn't sure about what was
yeah,
happening
I just
with
wanted to
that.
make you aware of that and everyone else.
Thank
So
you.
it's something that's a work in progress that I'm, knowing the legislature, who knows, but I'm hoping we'll be done before the 19th.
That's right, they have to the 19th, then there'll be a kind of a,
We'll be in limbo.
Never-
kind of.
never land.
Yeah, we'll be canceling
Yeah.
meetings or
Yeah.
something if we can't
Yeah.
find a space for 'em,
Exactly.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Other concerns? Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
So, John, with these changes, this possible legislation or pending legislation and the changes under the governor's executive orders, do you expect that we will arrive at the point where boards and commissions will not only be able to begin to meet in person, but the question for me is, will we have a transitional period where some boards and commissions may continue to use Zoom, some may transition to in person, and I fear that in this interim that we'll be required to do both. So any sense of that?
I hope not, because that would be very confusing to the public. I think there will be, depending on the legislation that Councilor Bettencourt just talked about, I think there will be some flexibility with municipalities to still have online meetings or hybrid meetings. And personally, I think there are some boards and commissions that function very well with that. So I don't know if the legislation's going to, how long it's going to go for, the proposed legislation. I would hope that it becomes permanent, because there really is some boards that can meet very well online that don't normally get any or a few participants, and it makes it a very concise type of meeting. But my feeling is you won't be required to do both. You have the option.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further? Okay, John, thank you very much. At this time, I would ask for a motion for suspension of our rules from the members of council, please. It is intended to consider a resolution to be added to our agenda that concerns a reduction in capital contingency. Is there such a motion? President Pro Tem, Alderwoman Gould is the second.
Mayor, one other thing, the new resolution will be numbered 6,
Yes.
and that would make the other resolutions number 6 numbered to 7, number 7 numbered to 8.
Thank you, that is our intent. Is there okay, any further discussion on suspension of our rules? Seeing none, could we have a roll call on suspension, please?
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes.
Alderman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes,
That's 7-0.
thank you. Our rules are suspended at this time. I entertain a motion at this time. Alderman Wilson? Would you like to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to add what would be now Resolution 6 to the agenda.
Okay, is there a second? Alderwoman Miles is seconded. Is there discussion on the motion to add a new Resolution 6? Again, the topic is a reduction of the capital contingency that is proposed. No other discussion. Roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0. So again, that will now become Resolution 6, and the previous ones will then become 7 and then 8 on your agendas. And thank you.
Citizen comment on resolutions.
I declare citizen comment on the resolutions to be open at this time. If you would like to address the council on the 8 resolutions now on the agenda, please approach the microphone, state your name and address for the record. You could have 3 minutes, and thank you. We are open now. Is there? Yes, actually there is. We have one person signed up, and that is Mrs. Heather Romansky.
Am I allowed to take my mask off?
Yeah, yeah,
So I think now I'm speaking on Resolution 7, if I followed all that.
that is correct.
Okay. I'm just back from vacation, so thanks for the patience. Heather Romansky, 297 Scotland Road, Resolution 7. As a mom of 2 daughters who are both Norwich students and the chairperson of the Norwich Board of Education, I respectfully ask that you consider granting the board's request for a 3.95% increase in funding. Budget season is a notoriously difficult time in Norwich, and for many years I've stood before you to advocate for our schools. Last year felt particularly hard. Maybe it was because I couldn't stand at the podium and look at you all. Maybe it was because our ad hoc committee meetings were a little more adversarial than collaborative, or because trying to run a city and a school department during a global pandemic is hard. When I campaigned for a seat on the board, I said I wanted to improve relations between the board and city council. And there has been a lot to overcome there, but we are making progress. You've asked us to present our budget in a more clear and understandable format, and that was implemented this budget cycle. You asked us to stop relying on the city's fund balance, and we are on target to end the fiscal year without a deficit. The ad hoc committee meetings this year have been much more collaborative and feel like we're working together to make recommendations to the council that make financial sense for the board and the city. The relationship between NFA and Norwich Public Schools has evolved from one that could be characterized as chilly to a true partnership. We've heard you and we have taken action. There is more work to do, but we are committed and we are determined, and we need your continued partnership. Last year, in partnership with the city, we implemented significant staffing cuts to achieve a balanced budget. Another concern from the council over the years has been our reliance on grants, and we agreed to work to reduce this as we balanced our budget. So I'm concerned that with the infusion of COVID grant funding, that you might be convinced we can wait a year or more to work on that effort. And I worry that delaying the work to reduce the reliance on those grants sets us up for a future budget deficit. Fully funding the board's budget request allows us to continue to provide the very best for Norwich students. Thank you so much for your consideration, and I'm so thrilled to be able to stand in front of you and speak again after all those times of not being able to. Thanks so much.
Thank you very much. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council on any of the resolutions? Yes, sir, please join us.
Good evening, Brian Kovalar, 16 Hobart Avenue. Losing track of the resolution numbers now with the changes, but the first one is addressing the proposed change to the budget related to the tax collector and the city clerk. I listened to the departmental hearing presentation at prior meeting and am fully in support of that change. They were very persuasive in their arguments, and it makes far too much sense to incorporate it rather than see them continuing to struggle. The other thing that I wanted to mention, unfortunately, because we were not able to call in via phone during the last public hearing, and this is in relation to the proposed preliminary budget. I believe it's page 50, could be 51. The marketing of the city has been showing a flat level of funding in actual expenses for several years of $25,000. I'm aware of some efforts that were done, but I don't know where much of that expenditure has been taking place. In order to justify that type of expense being approved for the 21-22 budget, I would like to see some type of information on a return of that investment. What have we seen for that amount of money being expended each year and to justify spending it in the future? I think the taxpayers of the city are deserving of knowing how that money is being expended, and I hope you consider that in the adopted budget. I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is anyone here else like to speak to the council concerning any resolutions on our agenda at this time? And anyone like to join us on the citizen comment on resolutions? Anyone like to join us on citizen comment on resolutions? That is our third request at this time. Seeing no one else, I would then declare citizen comment to be closed. And thank you.
Resolution number 1, relative to the sale of Garfield Avenue.
I have a motion to bring this resolution forward. Alderwoman Gould, second Alderman Wilson. If members of council would permit me, I have language to help move this resolution forward, and I would like to present that. So could I have a motion to bring this amendment forward? Alderwoman Miles, second Alderman Gould. Thank you. In the third paragraph, where the sum of funds is blank, please insert $31,000. Moving on to the fourth paragraph, again, where it says at a price of, again, insert $31,000. And it is to Joa, Joao Pontes, Joa Pontes, Pontes, of 437 New London Turnpike, Norwich, Connecticut. And then again, moving further down in that fourth paragraph where it says, and deliver a deed of conveyance to, please insert the person's name once more and their address. $31,000 to Joa Pontes of 437 New London Turnpike, Norwich, Connecticut. Is there further discussion on the amendment that has been offered? Seeing none, all those in favor of the amendment that has been offered? Thank you. That is unanimous, 7-0. Is there further discussion on Resolution 1 as amended? Seeing none, you have a roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
The motion passes on the resolution as amended, 7-0. Thank you.
Resolution 2, relative to reallocate funds from the 2018-2019 capital budget for the Taffville Volunteer Fire Department.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please, to bring this forward? Alderman Nash, second Alderwoman Miles. Is there discussion on the resolution? Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
Thank you. I'd just like to point out for the public's benefit that this is not new spending. This was money that was left over from a capital project from 2 years ago. And again, a project that came in under budget due to a lot of positive factors, and the excess money being used to further the project along without adding any new spending. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The further discussion? Yes, Alderman Nash.
I just want to also point out, too, that this is a needed project that's been long and overdue. This provides the Taft Volunteer Fire Department with a more safe and reliant parking area, because at this point, till this parking lot was created, they had to park mostly on the street or in the Waquanic school lot. If the school was in session and there was a fire alarm, obviously they couldn't park there. And parking, obviously, if anyone's been out to the Tapville area, is kind of limited to where you can go and where you can park. So this is a very needed addition to the Tapville Volunteer Firehouse to make it a much more safe and reliable parking for them to respond to the call. So, and again, Alderman DeLucia's right. This is not new spending. It's just not found money, but saved money through the projects. So, thank you.
Thank you, Alderman Wilson.
Thank you. I want to echo the same sentiment as my two other colleagues, Alderman Nash and Alderman DeLucia, that, this is not new money. The other part that I just want to commend Chief Jenks on, keeping with the vision of that parking lot space and finding where we find he is under budget when it comes to other projects and chipping away at small pieces at the overall vision of that plan. So his guidance and vision, I definitely wanted to commend him for continuing to persistently chip away at it and get things done that make his firehouse safer, but also in a relative manner for each and every volunteer that comes to his station. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion, comment? Seeing none, call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0.
Number 3, relative to convey property at 214 Holland Road and Holland Road.
Motion, please, to bring this forward. Alderwoman Miles, second Alderman Nash. Is there discussion? Seeing none, call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0.
Number 4, relative to acceptance of property in lieu of foreclosure at 90 Beach Drive.
May I have a motion, please, to bring this forward? Alderman Wilson, second Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Seeing none, roll call,
Alderman
please.
DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0.
Number 5, relative to an amendment to the 2021-22 budget to increase funding to the clerks in the city clerk's office and the tax offices.
Motion, please, to bring this forward. Alderman Nash, second Alderwoman Gould. Is there discussion? Yes, Alderman Wilson.
So one of the things I do want, we had our speaker talked about it, during the departmental budget hearings, we did hear consistently of several departments needing some additional help, and also the struggles of how this position was set up, making it very tough during peak season within both offices. So I will say I do support this resolution. adding staff to these two departments. The only thing that I want us to keep in mind is there were other departments also that could use help. So as we continue to craft this budget and look at the long-term planning of the city, I want us to keep in mind and looking at those departments and where need is as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Nash.
I just want to say that I don't get around as much as I used to and show up at all the departments and different agencies and within our city to see what's going on and say hi, because I just hate getting in the way. And, you know, who wants to see a politician show up? And, you know, it's just stupid. I don't like it. But anyway, I will say this. Of all the departments I do get to go to, and I frequent some of them more than others for other reasons, but each and every time I call the clerk's department, they always answer the phone. They always, I mean, not that other agencies don't, I'm not trying to say that. I'm just saying, I know every time I go there, they are straight out. They're working, it's one of the busiest, one of our busiest departments, and they're always, there's never an attitude when you show up. There's never any questions. They just, what you need, they get to you right away. So I just want to say that if this helps you, Betsy, I hope it does, and it's just going to enhance the already awesome quality that you give the city, your department. So I just want to say that, again, I've been to many departments, and they all work so hard, don't get me wrong, but this is one of the departments, every time I go there, it's busy. It's not like some of the other departments where they're not full out all the time. This one is from the open the door to they close the door, they're running. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Well, I would just add my support for the position of the clerk's office. This shared position was something that was kind of an experiment years before, being concerned about the cost of spending here in the city. So we split the duties of one person. And after looking back, I would say to you that that did not work very well, particularly for the city clerk's office. And I'm in there a lot, and they are overwhelmed with work, and it's only continuing to grow, particularly with City Hall opening up in the near future. This position is greatly needed downstairs, and it needs to be full-time. Thank you. Any further? Yes, Alderwoman Gould.
Well, I'll throw my 2 cents in too. Having volunteered in the office during election season, I saw how extremely busy they were. And I don't want to say when we put the part-time person in that we failed. It just didn't work as well as we'd hoped it would work. And this office really needs a full-time position. It's unfair probably to finance and the city clerk to be going back and forth trying to determine, are you working a week here or 2 weeks there or a month there or a month here? And it's not fair to that person who doesn't know one day from the next, I'm working in finance today, I'm working in the clerk's office. So I think it makes sense to add to make the position, a full-time position into the clerk's office, and that's why I will be supporting resolution number 5.
Thank you. Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
Well, I agree that the need is real, and I further agree with Alderman Wilson that there are also other departments that have a real need for additional staff. But that's not really the center of my comment. My comment is I find it troubling that the sponsors of this resolution are adding a staff member, a 1.0 FTE is what it amounts to, and then 2 or 3 resolutions later, they're asking the city manager to find 3% in cuts. I don't see how those two things correlate. Thank you.
Thank you. Could members please stick to the resolution that's before us at this time? Is there further discussion on Resolution 5? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes.
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt,
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom,
Yes.
that's 7-0.
Thank you. Motion passes 7-0.
Number 6, relative to an amendment to the 2021-22 budget to decrease the funding for capital contingency.
Thank you. Could I please have a motion to bring this forward? Alderwoman Miles, second Alderman Wilson. Is there discussion? President Pro Tem, please.
Reason for this, obviously, we're trying to make the biggest impact, I think, to the mill rate that we, reasonably can without cutting services. And this provides an opportunity to do that. I believe we'll either be going to a referendum on some issues that are going to be covered by this, and then in addition to that, we're hoping for some, grant funding, although that hasn't been finalized yet, obviously. But I believe that will be, I'm hopeful that will be forthcoming. So for me, this was the easiest bite at the apple that, we could do without seriously impacting services and keeping us from our goals as far as some of the things we want to accomplish this year.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
Mayor, I would ask the clerk to add my name as a sponsor to this resolution.
And anyone else who'd like to join? Okay, Alderman Wilson, anyone else? Yeah.
I'm already on it.
If there's no further discussion, roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia,
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles,
Yes.
Alderman Wilson,
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould,
Yes.
Alderman Nash,
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt,
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom,
Yes.
that's 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0. Thank you.
Number 7, relative to the tentative adoption of the preliminary budget for fiscal year 21-22.
Motion, please, to bring this to the floor. Alderman Wilson, second Alderwoman Miles. Is there discussion? Alderman DeLucia.
I would say that regardless how each of the members votes tonight, if this resolution were to pass, I would assure the public that continued refinement of the budget will continue until it is formally and finally adopted by this council.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman Wilson.
So first, I would like to start by echoing that sentiment of Alderman DeLucia. One of the things that we understand is that no matter who you are, a budget is based up, this is on our morals, where our ideals sit, what we have as a vision for the city. When we look at this budget this year, our city manager proposed or recommended a budget that he felt moves the city in a direction that fits his vision. This budget is far from perfect. This process is far from over. We still have time for individuals to have a say-so in how this budget turns out. And I say that because I've been preaching over the last month about accessibility. So I challenge each and every one of my colleagues to take the extra step and continuing conversation with taxpayers, businesses in the city about their concerns, the things they like within this budget as we continue to make those decisions. This is, of course, we're still in the COVID times, and we are still thinking of ways so that we are not burdening our taxpayers with a tax increase. However, it is our job to continue to reach out to each and every stakeholder as we make this budget. So it's a preliminary budget, but it's not the final. So we've still got a ways to go, and I want individuals to know that we will continue to do our part to reach out so that their concerns are heard, that their suggestions are listened to, because at the end of the day, each of us up here represents a taxpayer. We are taxpayers in this city, and we want to do what's best for each and every one of them. So thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? No. Roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderwoman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
No.
Alderman Nash?
No.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
No.
That's 4 yes and 3 no.
Thank you. The motion passes 4 yea, 3 nay. Thank you.
Number 8, relative to requesting City Manager John Salamone to review and assist the council in identifying and prioritizing reductions in the general fund budget by a target figure of 3%.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to please to bring this to the floor. Alderwoman Gould, Alderwoman Miles, second. Is there discussion? Yes, Alderman DeLucia.
So first, a little math. Josh, check me on this. 3% would represent $4.2 million. I have my decimal point in the right place. Yes. Yeah. So.
4.16 million.
Okay. So just under 4.2, right? Okay. So my first point is we have right here, this is the city manager's proposed budget. This is his, or these are his recommendations. This represents a significant amount of time and effort, not only by the city manager, but by literally every member of every department in the city. I don't know what we would be asking the city manager to do other than, or I should say, do to find almost $4.2 million, because there's only one place, and you know, it's like it's the quiet secret, but there's only one place you're going to find $4.2 million, and that's in the education budget. And I'm not saying that $4.2 million is there to cut. I'm saying that when the education budget represents 62 to 63% of the entire budget for the city, that if you're looking to cut, I should say, or account for $4.2 million in cuts, that's where you're going to go. I'm not comfortable with that. And just on a point of principle, again, I'll say it one more time, we have the priorities set by the city manager right here in our hands. To do this, to ask him and his staff to do this now is, I believe it's irresponsible, and I believe it's an affront to the amount of work that went in to develop this. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Yes, President Pro Tem, please.
So regarding the resolution, I kind of look at this to some extent as political theater, I guess. It's certainly hypocritical based on the previous resolution. But in response to Alderman DeLucia, I'm going to disagree ever so slightly with the way you're characterizing this, because with the passing of what is now Resolution 7, this is not the city manager's budget anymore. This is our budget. All right? This is our budget. So I disagree with this. Any one of us can call up our controller, Josh Pothier, the city manager, or whatever, and get input and assistance and say, okay, where do you want, what you want to do, or whatever. This is totally unnecessary to me. So if I call John Salamone tomorrow and say, hey, I want numbers to do something, he's going to come up with numbers, however difficult that is to do. So this is really a waste of paper and just, you know, political theater and hypocritical at the very least, considering the prior resolution. So this is our responsibility. So I am not going to support this. I support the concept of going to the city manager and asking for cuts and seeing what you come up with and bring them to the table, because that's what this is. We own this budget. So bring it, whatever you have in mind, bring it up to the city, bring it up before the city council, before the public. And to lay it at the feet of the city manager is kind of weak. So that would be my suggestion. I'm not going to support this resolution, but I will support the concept of listening to any and all cuts that are proposed by the opposing party. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Alderman Nash.
Sure, I'll give a couple shots at it. First of all, I've sat up here for 12 years, and if this is what you're calling political theater, I don't know where you've been, because this is far from that. I've sat here and watched political theater. This is far from it. I don't think there's any harm looking at the city manager, who's a financial genius with Josh, and say, hey, what would it look like if you cut 3% from this budget? What do you think would be the hardest hit departments? I've sat up here and I've voted for school budgets. I've gone against my own party on school budgets. I've encouraged them to support increasing school budgets, not to the 9 and 7s and 6s that they had originally asked for, but to get them back a little bit more so that it would be helpful to them. So, and also to call us hypocritical because we've said, oh, let's add something because we see an area that needs to be improved. And I'm not saying that there aren't other areas that are going to need to be improved. And I'm not saying there aren't areas that should be cut some more. Listen, I'm a councilman. I'm a security guard. I read the budget. Some of it's Greek, some of it's Russian, some of it's English. So I do make calls to John. I don't bother Josh too much because he's got a lot to do down there. But I take offense to the fact of being called hypocritical. I take offense to the fact that you're calling this political theater when Alderman Bettencourt, you've sat up here with me in years past and watched political theater. So please don't put this in there. We simply are asking the city manager to, hey, look, can you see if you can find 3%? He may come back and say, it's crazy, there's no way I can do it. I don't want to see the school take a hit. I won't support a school taking a hit. But I just want to say that, yeah, I have some ideas, but I don't know if my ideas make any sense. So I'll talk with John, I'll talk with Josh, but I don't think it's wrong to say to the city manager who did the budget and has it fresh in his mind, it's our budget now, I get it, but I don't see anything wrong with asking him to say, hey, do you think there's 3% you can shave off? I know $4.6 million is a lot of money. Can you kick out $1 million? Can you kick out $1.5 million? I don't know, but I don't see any harm in asking him to take a look at it and give us a hand. Because I'll be honest with you, I'm not at that level. I read what they give me, and I believe the city agencies when they come in here and tell me what they need, and it's my job, because we do have constituents, it's my job to try to watch the pockets and watch the pennies and the dimes and hopefully save our taxpayers a few cents here and there, and not at the sense of hurting the city. That's what I got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Other comments? Alderman Wilson.
So I will start by saying I've sat in this chamber and watched resolutions as this ask for up to as much as 5%. I don't think it's rocket science for us to know, as Alderman DeLucia has already alluded to, where the cuts are going to come from. They're one of 5 departments that always take the hit. So that's the school department, public safety, public works, and human services have always take the brunt of the hit. It's just the name of the game, the way it works, the way the math works. This isn't rocket science. We've been doing this now for some years. I will say we were all elected. We all took the oath. This is, as Alderman Bettencourt has said, this is our budget. It's time out for the city manager being the scapegoat to come up with the work that we do. We've adopted a preliminary budget. We can make phone calls to him all day long with ideas we have. I said it last budget cycle, and I will say it again. If you want cuts, put the cuts on the table. It's not his job to sit there and come up with 3% of cuts if you've got ideas. We can kick back and forth with him on numbers, him and Josh, but at the end of the day, it's our ideas that come to the table. We went through the same process last year. You vote no on the preliminary budget, you vote no on the final budget, bring nothing to the table. So my challenge is it's not his job to come up with reductions. We could have did this last year. This wasn't on the table. We came up with no reductions. We've been talking all year long about COVID-19 impact. We're going into this budget with the same mindset. So this year is no different than last year because this year's budget will see a greater impact during the fiscal year at the end of what COVID-19's brought to the city. So we all are on the desk of coming up with ideas and presenting them before individuals. The other thing I will say, it is disheartening and I will say disrespectful for employees to have to go over the next month if we pass this resolution wondering if they have a job. They sign up for public service, giving the best service to our residents and taxpayers in this city. And to continue to allow them to go in every single budget season wondering if they've got a job come June 30th is ridiculous. And it continues to, we know it's going to decimate certain services. So this is not rocket science that we know what's going to happen. And quite frankly, if he did come back with reductions, we don't have to accept them. However, he's done the legwork over a course of many months. We've sat before every department listening to their needs, their concerns. We have the information we need to make cuts if we want to. We sat up here, and I will say, Alderman DeLucia stuck to the resolution earlier when he asked how, well, we're adding something to the budget. How are you going to pay for it if we're asking for cuts? It all aligns together. What we adopt as a preliminary budget, you're asking for cuts. It all aligns in one resolution because they all go hand in hand. We're asking for something that affects the bottom line of our budget, but also it affects each and every taxpayer. But we've had a job. We've had this budget since April. We know if we want to cut something, where to go. He's a phone call away, an email away, and he gets back to us in a timely manner. So I challenge you, we're not going to sit up here and play the tune of him coming up with 3% worth of cuts when we know that that's a large amount of money out of this budget during a time when we still have some unease of where things go. And he presented what he felt best, as I said earlier, to move the city in a direction for his vision. So in a sense, we already know where a large part of that 3% cut's going to come from. And I'm not going to sit up here and allow us to jeopardize or even think of jeopardizing specific services when we've sat up here and we've heard families struggling, businesses struggling to do the necessary things, yet we're going to provide the service. If we take those things away, how are those services going to be provided? That's the question we have to ask. As June 30th hits, COVID-19 is not over. We still have the impact come the fall. So if those individuals are gone, how are those services delivered? That's what we need to be thinking about. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further, Alderwoman Gould?
Okay, so we're hypocritical, we're political theater, I love that one, we're scapegoats, we're disrespectful. We've forgotten we represent the taxpayers who, for the last year, maybe they've lost their job, lost their home, lost their business. There is nothing wrong with asking the city manager, now maybe he can't, to look for 3%. Maybe he can't come up with 3%. Maybe it's only 1.5%. Maybe it's 1%. But we should be doing everything that we can to see if there is anywhere we can save money for the taxpayers of the city of Norwich who are struggling. Alderman Wilson just said it. They're struggling. The businesses are struggling. We have a responsibility to those people who are struggling to pay their taxes, to put food on the table, to take care of family members who are sick because of COVID-19. or to make up for the loss of income from a family member who's died from COVID-19. We have a responsibility to the taxpayers. Now, nobody here said, oh, we're going after this budget or that line item or this thing. Nobody said anything about its education, public safety. We asked Mr. Salamone to guide us if there is a possibility to identify possible sources to help reduce the mill rate for the taxpayer. Because we have to think about everyone who lives here in the city of Norwich. And if that's hypocritical, if that's disrespectful, if that's political theater, then I'm all for it. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Well, I'll join in just hopefully briefly. I've sat up here now since 2016 in one form or another, different chair, but we went through the budget in 16, line item by line item from the floor, and we cut less than $1 million, $900-something thousand. I think that was painful for the departments. The year after that, we proposed something similar in three phases, 1%, 2%, 3%, 5%, and we left it to the city manager's discretion. Now, he's the paid professional. We're not. Some of you acknowledged his expertise, and I'm acknowledging his expertise here as well. Remember, the paid professional and the department heads, they are the ones that would run the city once a budget is adopted. So to suggest, as some of you did tonight, and I really don't know why such a heightened sense of concern is over this resolution, it's asking him to do a draft. It doesn't cut the budget a dime, not tonight. That you would not even consider savings for the taxpayers, I find that really outrageous. In ignoring the other aspect of this, it asks him to find and identify other revenue sources. They're out there. This American Rescue Plan, we don't know how it can be spent yet. We don't know yet, but it's going to be made known pretty soon. To simply dismiss this in the light that you have is a discredit to the taxpayers by you. It really is, those of you who have spoken. He runs the city. We don't. He's the paid professional. And I think it's important that we listen to him, even if you're proposing reductions in spending. Listen to him first. That's respecting him. That's really what it is. Again, this is asking him to come up with a draft plan, what it would look like. It doesn't cut a dime from the plan now passed tonight. I'm really surprised at the level of angst about it. I guess I'd ask you to read it again. Thank you. I see a hand to my right. Yes, sir. Pro Tem Mark Bettencourt.
I mean, for me, I mean, there's not angst. I was a little confused by the existence of the other resolution combined with a request to cut. I thought that was, that in and of itself was what I considered hypocritical. I will admit my hyperbole of political theater is a slight exaggeration because Alderman Nash, we both know we've seen our share. But with that said, this resolution is just unnecessary because they are going to go through this process on an ongoing basis. They're going to do new revenue projections. This is what's going to happen, especially with the state budget, because we still don't know what's going to happen there yet. So all these things are going to happen automatically. And again, I'm going to say this, any one of us can go to the city manager and make these requests, and it will happen. So to me, this is totally unnecessary. So, and that's what I mean when you talk about scoring political points, that's kind of what I look at it as. So I am more than willing to sit down and discuss any reasonable cuts that anyone wants to make to this budget. And I anticipate that there'll be changes in the revenue numbers. So I believe, we're not anywhere near where we're going to wind up yet. So, so with that said, I just think that this is just an unnecessary piece. And any one of you can do that. But I think you should do that, and you should bring items up before this council for consideration. I have no issue with that. I will be happy to talk about any specific proposals you may make. Yeah, I look forward to it. It's not an issue. So, but I just think this format is. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? I'm sorry, yes, Alderman Wilson.
Thank you. So I will say, just not to mince my words or confuse them, is first going back to people are and families and taxpayers are struggling businesses. That's not to say that we are not thinking of how to reduce the mill rate. That, I think, is an out-of-character representation of each and every one of us. I think, you know, I asked the question earlier, Alderman Delusha asked the question earlier of how do we pay for, what does it look like adding things to the budget? So we are all fiscally understanding of what our job is right now. We understand, and I think we all have the goal of reducing the tax burden, as I said earlier, for each and every resident. That's not the issue here. The issue is we have the power. We already know it. I mean, you can collect the dust off of old resolutions that have gone through this reduction process. They don't change because the percentages in the budget aren't changing for where the large amounts of money are. So it's not that hard for us to go back and look and see where those reductions are. You know, I look at, you know, I asked a question last year when we were going through this to City Manager Salamone about reductions, and those reductions aligned with back when we went through the 1, 3, and 5, where the cuts are. So we know where, if he's going to recommend cuts, where it's going to be, because this is a large amount of money. This is not us penny pinching, taking a position from here, a position from there. It's going to be a large chunk of money we're talking. Whether we approve that or not, that's up to us. We know each and every one of us can put ideas forward, put resolutions forward about how we want to see the city move forward. He's done his part of proposing what he thinks is, or recommending what he thinks is feasible for the city, the taxpayers, knowing that there are some negotiable points. But to go back and ask him to start and go through the budget and look for 3%, up to 3%, we could do that ourselves. We have him to consult, we have Josh to consult, so it's not like we can't reach out and have individuals to check our math, to check to make sure we're going about the right thing, or to hear his opinion on things we are thinking of cutting. We all know that that's part of this. I said it when we passed the preliminary budget, that this is just the start of the process. We've got a ways to go. We can present all types of reductions, additions to this budget. However, I think it's our job and our due diligence to do that part and not to lay it at the feet of the city manager to come up with that. I think we're better off. We're better than that. I think if we want to cut something, each and every one of us owns it, and we bring it to the table. Whether it's accepted or not, that's the body's pleasure. But if you've got specific cuts and ideas, put them on the table. Let's discuss them. Let's debate them, and let's continue to move the city forward in that manner. Not sit here with the angst of having 3% worth of cuts possibly on our desk and going each by each when we know in our minds, we've read the budget for some time now, where we possibly want to cut. So let's continue to do that, and I think this is also counterproductive in a sense to some of the strides we've made communication-wise. So we can work together as a collaborative team with discussions even outside this chamber in small numbers, and we can go back and forth inside the chambers on where we want to see things. I think, like I've said before, each of us puts things on the table to consider, and we move that direction. This is not necessary for the city manager to have to go back and look for up to 3% worth of cuts, because there are still, as Alderman Bettencourt has said, there are areas within the American Rescue money, the state budget, that could change. So this is just the start of the process, and we will continue to get updates and continue working on this thing until June comes. So we've got time. Let's continue to use that time. But each of us, I challenge us to come to the table with the cuts, not the city manager. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further comments? Alderman DeLucia, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So we've heard some commentary about being responsible and responsibility that this office bears, and I agree with the philosophy behind those statements. But as Pro Tem Betancourt said earlier, this budget now belongs to us. So the responsibility that we talk about, well, the responsibility for identifying and prioritizing reductions to this budget now belongs to us. So I encourage us all to stand and, I hate to say it, but stand and deliver and state your priorities for the rest of us to debate and ultimately vote either in or out of the budget. It does not belong at the feet of the city manager any longer. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further discussion? Well, I feel like I must respond. I don't normally do that a second time, but the fact of the matter is, if we go forward and the taxpayers aren't considered when we go forward what is now our budget over the next course of the month, I think that's a real shame, because they're the ones paying the bill. And I mean, this resolution was crafted in a way that allowed him flexibility, not just look for reductions in spending in a draft form, but also look for other revenues that could offset what is now a proposed mill rate increase.
That's not true.
And that's exactly what's there, sir. Read the bottom line. If you want to speak a third time, you can ask for permission from the members. I have the floor. This was offered to include the taxpayers. This was offered to allow John to do his job. You know, the world didn't end in 17. That 5% cut passed. It was enacted, and the taxpayers saved $5.1 million that year. They should have a voice here. You know, and I've heard the word transparent so many times in this chamber in the last 6 years. Well, this is transparent because it's done in the eyes of the public, not behind a door. And again, it's asking for a draft. It's not cutting anything. I don't know why you wouldn't look at this as a means of making it more flexible when we do the budget. I mean, it's not cutting a dime of services right now. And by the way, he put those percentages together, the 1%, 3%, and 5%, which was adopted. And the world didn't end, the ceiling didn't fall, services were maintained, but the taxpayers were considered. And they should have a voice in this process. Now I'm done. Anyway. Yes, Alderwoman Miles.
I have a question then, and perhaps this would resolve some of the dismay over the resolution. You know, looking at that target reduction figure and the overall dollar amount of $4 million, that, you know, that's not, you know, a drop in the bucket. That's a significant amount of money. So perhaps if we want the city manager to take a look at the budget and find some areas, can we tighten some things up here? You know, perhaps we need to strike the last few words about, you know, reaching a target reduction of 3%, because perhaps we can't reduce anything. So perhaps we need to just strike that last, you know, portion of this resolution to allow him to take a second look and say, okay, well, maybe we could tighten up, you know, this area a little bit more, that area a little bit more, without, you know, pushing that glaring, you know, $4 million, because I think that has sticker shock. So I think if we can say, okay, take a second look, is there anything that can assist us with saying, okay, we can reduce this a little bit, or no, we can't reduce this? And perhaps that will make it a little more palatable.
Would you like a response? Thank you. As in the past, it originally had talked about a 5%, this is in 17, and that very issue was raised by the city manager. So he asked then if he could present it in a 1, 3, or 5% presentation. And I don't see a problem with that. If you wanted it to have it say a 1, 2, or 3, and leave it up to him how those are presented. I mean, that's just showing some flexibility. I don't see a problem with that at all. And thank you for asking the question.
Are you making a motion?
Yeah, I
You can amend
I
it.
would like to make the motion to amend, just to strike the last 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like 7 or 8 words that say, "to reach a target reduction figure of 3%." So it'll end the resolution, to alternate possible sources of revenue, period.
I'll second that.
Well, what-
Okay, just for clarity, there's a motion on the floor to reduce the words "to reach a target reduction figure of 3%."
Strike that from
Yep.
the resolution, yep.
Okay, and that was by Alderwoman Miles, second by Alderman Nash. Is there discussion or questions? I saw Alderman DeLucia's hand first.
Before we go any further, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to request a brief recess so that I may caucus with my colleagues.
That is always in order. How much time would you like to?
I would say no more than 10, most likely 5.
Okay. Is there a second, please? Alderman Wilson. I don't think we need to vote on motion to recess. The council will stand in recess at this time. 8. Yeah, I know. Council, come back to order. It is 8:50. Thank you. And before us is a motion to amend, striking the last words, "to reach a target reduction figure of 3%. Is there discussion? Seeing no discussion? Roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
We're voting on the amendment?
To the amendment, yes, sir.
Yes.
Alderman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
Alderman, President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Amendment passes 7-0. The Resolution 8 as amended. Is there further discussion? Yes, Alderman Wilson.
So I will just continue to say, as each and every one of us up here, the way that this is, of course, changed, still puts it at our feet to come up with reductions and putting forth plans. So I continue to challenge each and every one of us to bring forth additions and subtractions, reductions to the budget. I think we all have the same goal of reducing the tax burden to each and every taxpayer. However, we are looking to make sure we maintain good services and whatnot within the city. So I continue to challenge each and every one of us over the next set of weeks, whether we're in session or out of session, to float ideas between one another, the city manager, Josh, to make sure that we are doing what is best for each and every resident here in the city of Norwich, and doing our due diligence to pass the best possible budget. So this, as amended, still leaves the burden on us as council members to provide some action, whether it be adding or subtracting. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Is there further discussion? Yes, Alderman DeLucia? Oh,
just like-
I'm sorry. The city manager? Okay. Alderman DeLucia.
Thank you. I would just like to say, first, thank Alderwoman Miles for quick thinking on her feet. There were compelling arguments on both sides of this issue, and I believe that we have reached a satisfactory middle ground.
Thank you. City manager, please.
The resolution doesn't state when you want the suggestions back. Is it by next week, or is it, am I missing a portion of the resolution? But I don't think it's specific. Is it? The second, so you want it back by the public hearing next week, or?
Mr. Mayor?
I don't know if it's specific on that, Mayor.
Could I?
Obviously, if they were to be completed by then, that would be the benefit of the public. And I think everyone would support that, so the public can comment on that.
I mean, we'll get it done. I
But the
just want to be
intent was
specific.
not to rush you. There was no intent to rush. The concept was that they'd be presented no later than when agenda setting presents itself prior to the first meeting in June. But you raise a valid point about a public hearing being held, but I think that is a rush to judgment a week, personally. It's not an easy task.
Oh, no, I'm not,
But also, the council in prior years has held additional public hearings and has the right to even do that. I remember one year in first term when I served in this chair, we held 3 public hearings on a city budget. You have that opportunity if those are concerned, particularly about the public commenting on the draft that you provide. And I certainly would support that.
I mean, one of the issues, obviously, is we're eagerly awaiting what the state
Right.
does.
Correct.
The state has 1.7 million approximately on the table for the increase the pilot to the tier program.
That is correct.
And a $1.7 million revenue influx to the budget would be substantial, changing a lot of the dynamics. We're not going to have that by next week. I mean,
No.
I could put it in as a tentative thing to show you how it impacts it, but knowing that I think we would have it when we have to do the budget by the 8th, but we're very close to that. So there's some of the things. We'll certainly work on it and try to get it done by next week if we can. I think that would be the best for the council and the taxpayer to see it up front. So I just wanted to clarify that. I didn't want anybody coming back next week and asking us, well, where is the projection? And well, didn't really say, so we didn't do it. So I wanted to clarify that tonight.
Thank you. Again, there was no intent for a rush judgment on your
I
part.
understand.
And the language in here actually references what you just pointed out, the 3-tiered system with the pilot that's been proposed. And there may be other revenues that are realized through the state's action. They did not move the budget that Governor Lamont brought to them. It's a far different budget. It also eliminates, in the second year, the cliff that the education programs here would have realized, and that was millions of dollars. It was like $6 million cut from this year's funding that was proposed by Lamont to the following in the second year. That was a huge loss, and I know that our senator at Appropriations did not support that out of committee. So there is a lot of other revenues that, quote, may be coming to this city and all towns across the state, but again, this resolution still references that. Thank you. I'm sorry, Alderman DeLucia. Your hand's been up a long time.
Thank you. So, meanwhile, during this conversation, I'm looking at our schedule, our calendar, so, and, I think that these recommendations that the resolution is going to bring forward are they're not even recommendations. They would really just be ideas. That I say, well, you could do that. The council could do this. The council could do that. But until those changes are in the form of resolutions or part of the budget ordinance itself, I would hate that the public would be reacting to things that are ideas. So I think that this exercise is something that gets given to the council, and then whatever the council decides, or the members of the council decide to bring forward at agenda setting, that's what the community is going to want to know, right? Not every idea that staff can possibly come up with, but what the council's actually going to take up, right? So I think that having the community's opportunity to comment on those things should be paramount.
Thank you. I don't disagree, particularly the last comment. And again, if this council feels the need to hold a third public hearing before final adoption, that ability rests with us. We also have the ability to adopt the final budget not at the first week or Monday of the month. We can go 1 week beyond that. It's allowed in the charter, so the opportunity is there. Thank you for raising those points. Alderman Wilson.
So just kind of to bring it to a recommendation or a suggestion, knowing we have the extra time and not wanting to rush the city manager, but also knowing there are still some influxes of knowing how some of the American Rescue money can be used, what the revenue projections, of course, from the state budget are. I would say over the next week, possibly us considering adding an additional budget hearing during that first meeting in June that allows us time to react or discuss some of the possible changes to the budget. But I think it's one of the things that many have always disliked about the budget process of not being able to have an additional say, although as Alderman DeLucia has said, whatever changes we make to the budget, they will have a chance to address them on the resolution. So, you know, I say you can go one of two ways, but I think possibly consider giving an additional budget hearing if we need to before we make our final decision. So,
Thank you. Alderman Nash.
I just want to make a comment real quick. First of all, this is what I was trying to talk about with the budget. I've sat up here through a lot of budgets, and I've sat in Alderman Betancourt's house and went through the budget page by page back in the day. And it was one of the reasons why I enjoyed being on the council, because I got to serve my city and meet people. But I just want to point out real quick, like even like what the city manager said immediately about all this minutia in the budget, and we're not even there yet. You know, and we don't even have a good picture of what we should have or don't have. So, John, I hate asking you to do more work for us, but I'll give you my suggestions, and I take your challenge, Alderman Wilson, to bring things forward. But I just want to say, pay attention to what just happened here. A few minutes ago, it was pretty tense up here, and it was a little hostile. And I hate this part about politics, especially what's going on nationally, that I don't want it to seep and creep into this chamber, because Alderman DeLucia lives in Norwich, Wilson lives in Norwich, everyone up here lives in Norwich. And we all care about the city, and we all love the city, and we all want to take care of the taxpayers, and we all want to give the employees, we don't want no one to lose their jobs. We don't want the city to suffer. And I've been through some tough budgets, and the sky didn't fall, and we were able to get through it. But look what happened 10 minutes, 15 minutes ago to where we are now. And this is what it's supposed to be. We're sitting here as a group of 7. We have the same mission in mind, the same goal. We're just going down 2 different paths. But because of someone's quick thinking, brought us back to a compromise where we can all sit back and say, you know what, it doesn't look so bad now. Maybe we could do this and maybe it might work. So I want to thank you very much, ma'am, for your suggestion, and the rest of you for trying to understand where we're coming from, and from going from a level 9 back to a level 3 where we can all sit and get along and maybe move this forward. So I just want to say thank you guys for going from a 9 to back to a 3.
Thank you. Yes, Alderman Pro Tem Betancourt, please.
Yeah, just one thing on the revenue section. I already know the answers here, I think, but I'll ask them out loud. So, I mean, Josh, don't you have an obligation to report to us what your reasonable revenue projections are in all cases? Hang on, please a second.
Hello?
There you go.
Yes, if there's changes in the revenues from the estimates in the proposed budget, we bring those forward to you.
I mean, that's a matter of routine in this budget process anyway, every time I've done a budget in the city.
Yep.
So my only point being here is that some of what's in this resolution is going to happen regardless. So John and Josh, our city manager and our comptroller, are going to be dealing with the revenue expectations, and I'm reasonably sure they're not going to leave much on the table or try not to. So I believe the other major questions are going to be, obviously from the state and as we deal with those issues. But I'm fairly hopeful that, most of the savings that we're going to find in this budget are going to be on the revenue side as we go forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Further discussion? On the resolution as amended, could we have a roll call, please?
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0.
New business ordinance. An ordinance appropriating $600,000 for the demolition, planning, acquisition, and installation of improvements to the HVAC system at the John B. Stanton School, and authorizing the issuance of $600,000 bonds of the city to meet said appropriation, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowing for such purpose.
Thank you. At this time, I'd ask for a motion to schedule this for public hearing and to waive the full text of the reading at this time.
Next meeting is
Is-
May 17th.
Josh, is this CCP?
It's more of a Mike Driscoll question. My take on it is that it would just be repairs, so.
Right.
But I defer to Mike.
Okay, just want to clarify that for the record. Yep, so it could be, in fact, May 17th be the date. Yes.
No, I was just going to say, it doesn't have anything to do with the plan of development or anything, so.
When you're spending money.
Yeah, that's all right. Hey, we're paying them, right?
So the motion is to move this forward to schedule a public hearing May 17th and waive the full text and reading. Is there such a motion? Alderman Gould, second. Alderman Nash. All those in, roll call, please. It's an ordinance.
Alderman DeLucia? Oops, sorry.
No discussion on?
Oh, yep, I'm sorry. I apologize. Didn't see your head.
So I would just like to say, so we've decided on the 17th?
Yes.
Personally, I would like to move this forward as quickly as possible because we're going to have a very short construction cycle if this is approved, so.
I agree. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, City Manager.
I can add that we did give verbal approval to, without binding us, to ordering the boilers for the, so we've led the target a little bit. We can cancel if we don't appropriate money, so we had to lead the target. It's about 16 weeks to get the boilers in, which would be kind of some part in August. Still can be done, but so to leave some of the tension, we've led the target a little bit.
Right, and I didn't mean to say construction window. That's the tight part, so thank you.
Thank you, sir. Good point. Roll call, please.
Alderman DeLucia?
Yes?
Alderman Miles?
Yes.
Alderman Wilson?
Yes.
Alderwoman Gould?
Yes.
Alderman Nash?
Yes.
President Pro Tem Bettencourt?
Yes.
Mayor Nystrom?
Yes.
That's 7-0.
Motion passes 7-0.
I hereby move pursuant to Connecticut General Statute, Section 1-200, subsection 6, that the members of the Norwich City Council go into executive session for the purpose of discussing the acquisition or disposition of real estate or interest in real estate when publicly regarding the site and the acquisition or disposition of interest in the same would adversely impact the price of the same. To review preliminary drafts of proposals pertaining to the use of the properties, the council having determined that the public interest in withholding such clearly outweighs the public interest in disclosure at this time, and to review commercial or financial information given in confidence not required by statute. City Manager John Salamone, Finance Director Josh Pothier, and Corporation Counsel Michael Driscoll shall be asked to participate during all or portions of this executive session at the request of the City Council.
Motion has been made, seconded. Alderman Wilson. All those in favor of the motion for executive session, please raise your right hand. Thank you. Yes. record show no votes were taken during the executive session. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion to adjourn by Alderwoman Gould.
Hold it, need a motion for the executive session?
We did.
No.
No.
Motion to come back for regular session, to regular session, noting that no votes were taken.
What did I say?
You did, no votes were taken, let's adjourn.
No, but I said motion to come back.
Yeah,
No
but we
votes
didn't-
were taken.
Yeah, but we
To
didn't-
end the executive session is what I said. It's not the same thing? Whatever.
No, we did, but we didn't vote, we didn't do anything. Yeah,
Second.
thank you. I moved.
Miles
Put
Gould,
anybody
whatever.
down, Michael.
Now you.
Now we vote on the motion.
Motion, we vote to return.
Right.
DeLucia.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Gould.
Yes.
Miles.
Yes.
Betancourt.
Yes.
Nystrom, yes. Passes 7-0.
Stacy?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
DeLucia.
Yes.
Wilson.
Yes.
Nash.
Yes.
Gould.
Absolutely.
Miles.
Yes.
Betancourt.
Yes.
Nystrom, yes. We are adjourned.